No more stupid mistakes. Right here. Let's go! That's it.
Welcome to Week 7 of Eastern Iowa OT. As we carry on through October, the boys in Boone at the State Association, they've already released their first rankings and RPI standings. So just as a little bookwork here, those are the rankings we're going to be using from this point forward. Our thanks to the Cedar Rapids Gazette for the weekly rankings we've used to this point. But now these polls from the State Association are what will dictate the playoff seedings in a few weeks. Normally, we'll just show you the top 10 ranked teams, but to better give an indication of who's on the cusp of the playoffs, we're going to show numbers 1 through 20, which you can see in the parentheses in the lower third graphics at the start of each highlight. Now that we're through that, let's get a gander at a couple of teams ranked in the top 15 of the state's RPI. Ankeny and Liberty Hawks were the preseason #1 team in the state, but are just 3-3 after 6 weeks. Liberty's 5-1, but all their wins have come against fellow Eastern Iowa programs. If Scott Chandler and the Lightning want to be counted among the state's elite, they need to start putting up wins against those powerhouse programs in Central Iowa. Tonight's only the second ever meeting between these teams. Ankeny won last year's matchup by 19, but that was before Scott Chandler showed up in North Lib. The Lightning have some dangerous offensive weapons. Ankeny trying to make it a 10-0 lead in the first, but a rough snap on a field goal attempt turns into a mad scramble. Logan Lobenthal there for the tackle to keep it a one-score game. And now the Lightning are finding their groove on offense. Reese Reddick hands it to Sutton Kohler, who cuts back, slips a defender, and takes this one down the field for the game-tying score. It's 7-all early. Ankeny's offense, no shortage of weapons on their own. Luke Anderson to Andrew Brandhorst for the touchdown. These teams trading punches in the first half. Down 14-7 is Liberty now. Reddick, he's going to go to the sky to Sutton Kohler, a pair of serious weapons for the purple and black. This ties the game at 14. Right before halftime, Ankeny drills a field goal to go up by 3, but Liberty fights back to outscore the Hawks 14-3 in the second half. Liberty, they're showing us something. Their first ever win over Ankeny, a 28-20 final. Iowa City West only has a few more chances to play its way back into the postseason picture, but Wash has been playing some inspired football in the back half of the season. Eric Addy's got something happening on the east side. But tonight at Kingston, the Trojans have got a comfortable lead in the third quarter, just burning some clock, letting Butali do what Butali does, moving it down the field. Goes over 500 yards on the season tonight. Jack Wallace, he's QB1 for 4 straight years at West, leading Class 5A in passing touchdowns, and now he's leading his team in rushing touchdowns. This one is his 5th of the season. Swords up, the Trojans take a 42-14 lead. Now we go to the fourth quarter, and we're getting some of the youngsters on the field. Deep in the red zone, sophomore Nazareth Shaw, his first varsity touchdown coming from a yard out. Iowa City West don't write these guys off just yet. A second straight dominant win and a couple of chances coming to play their way into the postseason. Linmar's 5-1, but only 8th in the RPI, probably not getting a big boost after tonight as they host Davenport West, who ranks dead last in the 5A RPI. Linmar running back Dylan Mazinski currently leading 5A in rushing touchdowns and getting to work on Linmar's opening drive. Taking the pitch, runs to the right. Didn't like what he saw, so cuts back left, running across the field. Been watching some Seneca Wallace highlights, taking it to the end zone for his 18th touchdown of the year. Lions up 7-0. Ensuing drive for West. Not much happening here for the Falcons. Kane Polniak with the interception, and he's got grass in front of him. Takes this one back for the pick 6. And in the blink of an eye, Linmar has a 2-score lead. Later in the first half, it's already 21-0, and time for more Mazinski magic. Heads to the sideline, shakes one defender, hits the spin move, breaks about 5 tackles on this play. Don't know how he escaped that scrum. Without question, one of the most exciting players in Iowa, Mazinski, unstoppable out there. That's exactly how Linmar looks on this night. 49-point win for the Lions, who have a big one coming next week against City High. Even with 2 more games in front of them, tonight is likely make or break time for Prairie and Jefferson, both sitting in the 20s in the RPI. A loss and you're likely bidding farewell to the 2024 playoffs. And that carries no small amount of significance for either program. Prairie has the longest playoff streak in the history of the Cedar Rapids Metro. 12 straight years the Hawks have been in the postseason. Kind of the opposite storyline for Jeff, who haven't been to the playoffs since 2015. Since 92, only 3 playoff appearances for the Jayhawks, and they've made significant strides on their on-field product thanks to what Ed Miles has built there on the west side, but a playoff showing will be historic for these guys. Miles, a former Hawkeye, going toe-to-toe with Kyle Knock, a former Cyclone. 2 guys who used to make hay on Saturdays, now under the Friday night lights. Prairie mows down about 7 minutes of game clock on their first drive. Brandon Brune, a bruiser, giving the senior his first touchdown of the season. Happy homecoming for the Hawks with a 7-0 lead. And things quickly go from bad to worse for the Jayhawks. First offensive play of the night. Snap goes over Vernon Binda's lid. Niall Fall, the fall guy, falls on it in the black grass for 6 more. Next offensive drive, the Hawks are in the red zone. Wyatt Eash, your homecoming king, drops back for the Tebow jump pass. Off the back foot, drops it to David Faison, who's been his favorite target this season. Just like that, it's 21-0 Prairie. Now in the second, Faison on the receiving end of a dump-off pass. Do not let yourself get caught in this kid's path. He brutalizes his defender at the goal line, just like Faulkner, bringing the sound and the fury. This game gets out of hand quickly after a Jeff score. Denzel Green, he answers with an 80-yard touchdown of his own. Loads of yak coming off this short pass. Prairie, they keep their playoff hopes alive with a 49-point win, but a tough one coming next week as the Hawks head to Bettendorf. Cedar Falls has had a bad go of it over the last month. 4 straight losses for the Tigers, but still a glimmer of hope that they could play their way into the playoffs. That road begins tonight at home against Senior. Moving to the second quarter of this game, Tigers up 24. Austin Handsome rolling left. Wait for this one. Fires over the middle to Karsten Meester for the score. Cedar Falls up 31-0 in those camo unis. Love those things. Jump forward to the second half. Hanson on the play-action pass. A dart to Trey Reuter behind the secondary. Reuter, 93 yards to the end zone. The Tigers cruising this one with a shutout win, beating Dubuque Senior 38-0. Watch out. Waterloo West, they've been a fun story this season. Already 5 wins, which is their most since the 2017 season, up to 3rd in the RPI coming into the night, but they run into an absolute sledgehammer over in West Des Moines. 3 tough games left on the schedule for the Wahawks as they chase their first postseason bid since 2020, and City High continues to bulldoze every team in its path. 5th straight win for the Little Hawks. 5th straight game scoring 40-plus points. A monster game coming next Friday as they travel to Linn-Mar. We've merely scratched the surface on this critical night of high school football. Decorah climbing the 4A polls up to number 2 and making the 2-hour drive to Marion in hopes of keeping the perfect season intact. And Solon got stunned last week against Benton. Spartans are trying to stay healthy in a top 10 road tilt against Williamsburg. Our game of the week from the W, Jonesy Jewell, Austin Blythe, couple NFL guys keeping tabs on this next block of Eastern Iowa OT. That's after the break. Up in Decorah from Josie Jewell to Rafe LaFrance and all across Allamakee County as I wait for my producer to find the teleprompter. There we go. We've seen your football team's mighty works this year in Decorah, but from afar we have yet to make the 2-hour sojourn to see the second-ranked Vikings in action. State Auditor Rob Sand, a Decorah alum, his audit of Eastern Iowa OT says we're coming up lacking in our Vikings highlights. Thankfully, we've got our best man on the job, Mitch Fick, in the studio with highlights.
Let the record show Rafe LaFrance is a Monona guy through and through. Go Bulldogs. Marion, though, needing a win on Friday night here on their homecoming to keep the hopes of an above 500 season alive. Student section getting the jump around going at the new stadium there. My first trip there. That's a gorgeous facility you got out there, Wolves. Scoreless after 1. That's when Lewis Bucks starts slinging up top to Will Larson in stride into the end zone. 7-0 Vikings lead just like that. Ensuing Wolves drive. What a response. Andrew Amon with an absolute dart to Matthew Denninger. 78 yards. He'll tie it up at 7. Here, though, is number 6 on the sideline when he was offered a celebration opportunity. It's important to set boundaries, you guys. Later in the second, Marion trying to keep things going, but that right there is Trevor Kennan jumping in front of it for the pick. Buska and company make it hurt. Louis dropping it in to Noah Milburn all by himself for the score. Decorah really just getting started. We are still in the second. Buska going to go short to Tommy Sexton, who had 2 picks and a score off one of them on defense. Here's some yak and some grit for the offensive touchdown. More from Decorah before the half. Kennan again with an INT. Nobody going to catch him on this one. Decorah scores 50 unanswered after it's tied at 7. They go on to win 57-14 to move to 7-0. Vikings head home in Week 8 to host 7th-ranked Western Dubuque. Marion hits the road at 2-5. They're at Mason City in Week 8.
Thank you, Mitch. Some other 4A scores of note. That team, Western Dubuque, with a 42 win tonight at Memorial Field in Waterloo. And Xavier, a shutout for the Saints. 35-0. They beat Oskaloosa. Well, if the 3A playoffs started tonight, fully half of the teams in the bracket would come out of Eastern Iowa. The teams have beat up on each other enough that we don't have any team in the top 3, but 8 teams in the top 16, including Williamsburg and Solon, both with 1 loss, both with championship aspirations, both playing under the lights for our game of the week. Here's Curtis Fader.
What a time to have a rematch of the state semifinal game. Williamsburg, the Class 3A defending champion. Solon, the Unidome hopeful. Both teams trying to send a message with a win tonight, and both teams trying to avoid their second loss of the season. Williamsburg tripped up against 2022 4A champ Xavier earlier in the year, while Solon is trying to bounce back after a 1-point loss to Benton last week. The Raiders have a 7-0 lead early in the first quarter, but Solon has an answer for him. Eddie Johnson barrels his way into the end zone, but a missed PAT still sees the Spartans trailing by 1. Still in the first, another break comes Solon's way as Maddox Kelly picks off Grant Hooker to give the Spartans the rock in plus territory. Solon had 3 chances for 6 from Williamsburg's 1-yard line, but the Raiders are able to make a huge stand to keep things 7-6 to start the second quarter. Later on in the second, Hooker finds Niles Sin, and you're not catching him after he turns on those afterburners. 67 yards to the house he goes. Raiders go up 8. Next Williamsburg possession, they cap off an 8-play, 57-yard drive with a Hooker to Race Heitman connection for 6. Raiders go up 21-6 with 3.5 to go in the half, but the Spartans say don't write us off yet. Eddie Johnson just will not go down. He breaks free and goes 80 yards to the casa. Solon gets to within 1 score heading into halftime. But that is the end of Solon's joyride in this one as the Raiders take command in the second half. Hooker finds Race Heitman for the touchdown. Williamsburg scores 21 unanswered points in the second half as they pick up a statement victory, beating Solon 42-13.
You know, 2 good programs. Solon got us last year, this week 7, so just huge. These guys learned from last year and just did everything we asked them to do this week.
We know how to play each other. I mean, our team just knows how to win more than anything. We've done it for the past 4 years now, and we just continue to do that better than anyone else. The last 3 teams we played weren't great, so this was a huge win to show that we're legit, and I think that we're the best team in the state, and I think that we showed that tonight.
Reporting in Williamsburg, I'm Curtis Fader, Eastern Iowa OT.
As Williamsburg and Solon fight to climb the RPI rankings, sitting at number 4 is Dubuque Wahlert, the school with almost no tradition to speak of, already assured a 3rd straight season with a winning record. When I asked Coach Jamie Marshall the last time that happened, all he could tell me, it's been a while. But the Golden Eagles schedule takes on a new layer this week on the road against West Delaware. Wahlert won't say that school's name. They're just Manchester if you suit up for the blue and gold. Their last major challenge of the regular season against a West Del team that's won 4 straight. Defensive battle in the first half of this game. West Del's Jaron Funky, that funky monkey, getting into the backfield for a 4th down stop. West Del, now they're trying to do something on offense, but Tom Scher says nay. The kid's all over the field, breaks up the pass, and we go to halftime with 0s on the board. But early in the second, the Golden Eagles strike. Drew Riley hits Luke Welbus in the end zone. Somebody finally on the board. Wahlert now with a 7-0 lead. Go late to the 3rd quarter now. Brett Yankovic driving the Hawks down the field. Swings it to Ryan Hilby. Gets his team down into the red zone. This drive working well for West Delaware. Yankovic, he's going to take this one in himself for the score, but West Delaware doesn't convert the PAT, so they're down 7-6. Neck and neck from start to finish in this game. Wahlert, they do it again. 17-14 win in overtime. A few more 3A scores from around the area. Fort Madison, not enough to play with Mount Vernon, 56-7 final for the Mustangs. And Assumption, boy, right when we thought that Washington might be a team to watch out for, they get blasted by Assumption on the road, 34-6. Grundy, bloody Grundy. The Spartans are spitting out wins one week after the next. 32 straight entering week 7. Will Alburnett find a way to break through? The two-time defending champs at Maquoketa Valley has gone 20 consecutive quarters without surrendering a single dang point. Incredible run for the Wildcat D. But will that be enough against an unbeaten North Lynn squad? Plenty more to come when Eastern Iowa OT returns. Any lack of coverage for Grundy Center this year certainly is no slight against the Spartans. Travis Zajac, friend of the program, him and Grundy are just so good that every game feels like a foregone conclusion. And for 32 weeks in a row, that's exactly what it has been. The win streak nearing 3 dozen as the Spartans go on the road to Alburnett. Grundy's defense simply superb. No more than 1 touchdown allowed in any game this season. Leading Class 1A, giving up an average of just 5.5 a game. Alburnett, they can put some points on the board, though. Pirates averaging 50 points in the last 2 wins. We got there in the second half of this game. Grundy already up 35-7. The Pirate team, no quitting them. Brody Kasner chucking it deep. Hits Lakin Caves down the sideline. I believe his sister's a pretty good softball player, too. Alburnett cuts into that Grundy Center league, but no comeback for the Pirates tonight. Spartan quarterback Judd Jarofsky rolling to his right and hits Jacob Hoy in the flat. Hoy caught about a yard short of the goal line. 2 plays later, Jarofsky punches it in on the quarterback sneak, makes it 41-13, and that's the final. As Grundy Center, their 33rd straight win, and they stay unbeaten. After losing their season opener to Grundy, Dike New Hartford's been phenomenal. 5 straight wins, only 18 points given up over those 5 wins. They're 3rd in the 1A polls, but AP's a whole new team lately. After a brutal first 4 games, Aaron Thomas and the Falcons have looked great in their last 2 wins. Rivalry night in Grundy County. First quarter of this one, Colin Meester, the quarterback for Dike New Hartford, gives it to Jack Severson, who goes up the gut for the touchdowns. Wolverines jumping ahead 14-0 early. D&H gets the ball back. Meester faking the handoff and takes off to show the wheels. Cuts back to his left. No one catching this kid. Another touchdown for the Wolverines. They're up 21-0 now. Spreading out the scores. This time, senior running back Noah Borcherding breaks tackles. Such a good senior class there at D&H. Love those black and blue unis. Those are beautiful. Barrels his way for a 35-yard score. Dike New Hartford dominates. 42-0 they win tonight. A few more scores in Class 1A to show you. Regina goes on the road and gets upset. They were up to number 2 in the state, unbeaten no longer. 28-15, they lose to Beckman. Sigourney Keota, the Cobras, looking good. Beat Colfax Mingo 62-26. North Lynn's ranked 5th in Class A after a 6-0 start, but Maquoketa Valley's brought the house on defense lately. 5 straight shutout wins for the Wildcats. 20 consecutive quarters without allowing a point. That is certified legend status in Del High. The Wildcats do all the scoring early in this one. Roger Height gets the call, picks up the first down, cuts back, and he's tackled inside the 10-yard line. On the next play, same play, Height finds the end zone for 6 points, and Maquoketa Valley takes a 6-0 lead in the first. Later in the quarter, North Lynn's Will Sommerfeld is looking deep, but Eli Doherty, showing off that defense, jumps up and snags a pick with one hand. Maquoketa Valley, their second forced turnover of the game. This one turns into points as Height on the direct snap punches it up the gut for the touchdown as Maquoketa Valley goes up by 2 scores. North Lynn scored this in the second after starting in possession in the red zone, but Maquoketa Valley wins this one at 35-16. As we close out the night with 8-man highlights, Springville might just play its way into the postseason after a 1-2 start. Orioles back up to 4-3. Couple winnable games to close out the year. A lot of guys coming back next season. Mitch Fick is back in the studio with a Springville team that's putting the pieces together.
Oh, and they're putting the pieces together and getting a great shot to go to 5-3 tonight. Now, you got to play the games. You don't play them on paper, but West Central goes into Springville tonight 0-6, giving up at least 40 points in every game this year, including 60-plus in the last 4 straight. Orioles looking for scores early and often at Allison Field, as is wont to do an 8-player. But so how about some special teams? That's Braden Jordan getting a piece of that Blue Devil punt, but things still rolls down to the Springville 2, so a lot of ground to make up. Mason Hoy, the man to do it. Keep it simple. Just roll right, get your blocks, and go 78 yards the other way. I wrote 98 yards, and then Owen reminded me about 8-player dimensions. I don't cover a lot of 8-player stuff, guys. I told you about Iowa Valley a couple weeks ago. It's been a while. 7-zip Orioles to the second. Oliver Longerbeam up top to Hoy for the big gainer. They mark him right down at the 1, which gives us a gift. Lineman touchdown. Isaac Hill, number 60. Get in there, sir. Springville 5-3 with that 49-7 win. They host Calumet Wheatland next week in the regular season finale.
Springville might be coming, but Iowa Valley very much a team of now. If these guys don't hit 70, it's a bad night. Just a few minutes into the first, Nolan Kriegel, the sophomore, makes it look easy. Tigers up 6-0, but Coach Casey Kroll wants to see a little bit more effort out of his boys. How's this, Coach? Kriegel to Caleb Hake, just gobbling up yardage out there. Hake getting some Division I looks, and the senior puts his Tigers up 14-0. Late in the first, it's a kid who scored more touchdowns this year than anybody in Iowa. The Regal Kriegel, he does it all, and Iowa Valley drops another 74 points on HLV. The Tiger team with a chance to close out a perfect regular season next Friday. Still more to come on Eastern Iowa OT. Who's making plays when it matters most? Precious little time left in the regular season and precious few chances to make our Play of the Week lineup. That's when we close out with an in-studio bump and come back after the break. Every season is filled with its own surprises, teams and players that come out of nowhere to make a name for themselves. That's what we get out of Dylan Mazinski in our Play of the Week. We knew that this kid was an elite baseball player for Linn-Mar, but he has been a revelation on offense for the Lions. Incredible run here as he shrugs off one tackle, hits the spin move, and he just dusts the defense for a touchdown. He had another few scores tonight. Kids leading Class 5A in rushing touchdowns this season, and Linn-Mar blasts Davenport West. Huge matchup for the Lions coming next week on their home field against Iowa City High, CITY. Another few teams that have been pleasant surprises that we didn't really see coming. Maquoketa Valley, Iowa Valley, just to name a couple. Those small schools finishing up the regular season next Friday night. Join us then for more Eastern Iowa OT. Thanks for watching.